Good morning, everyone. We are here with an amazing guest today on this amazing Sunday morning. His name is Satish Jha. Satish Jha is a social entrepreneur and an early stage investor in socially relevant technology based startups. And currently, he chairs the Jha Group, is the principal of Ashcroft Sullivan Jha, co founded with former U.S. Attorney General John Ashcroft. And he also chairs the Ashriya Foundation and EduFront Foundation. Satish's career began with some very, very credible known media companies, but we will talk about all that. And we want to know more about his philanthropic side from him. So let's welcome him. Satish, a very warm welcome to you on Making a Difference with me, Sheetal, Ohri, and on our station, Bolly 92.3 FM.
Thank you very much, Sheetal. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm happy to be back on your show. I think it's almost been a decade now.
Yeah, it's been nearly 10 years that we've had this show, but thank you so much, Satish. And, you've been doing some incredible things, and I had to reach out to you again to bring you back on board to, just empower our listeners and let them know what great things you've been doing. So, Satish, before we start getting into all of that work, let my listeners of Bolly 92.3 FM and on of the show know, who is Satish Jha? What's his journey?
Well, very tough question. At any point in time you ask. Having said that, where do I begin? I can say I come from a very small village in Bihar. I grew up in Lucknow, which is a great city at one time. It's becoming something different now as we see it. And lived in Kaval towns, which was the British gave it name Kaval. Kanpur, Allahabad, Varanasi, Agra, Lucknow. So I said, if you have been to all the towns, you become a cavalier. So I didn't want to become a cavalier. I went to JNU, studied economics. But more than that, my interest was primarily in doing something which is socially relevant from age, which was 15, 16. I think greatest influence I had was Jayaprakash Narayan, whom I met when I was about 16. And that kind of changed my trajectory of my journey, so to say. And I went to a village, started something like Grameen Bank, which actually was based on the idea that I worked on 3 years before Grameen Bank was founded, called Vyapar Koti, primarily trying to tell landless laborers whose incomes were about 50 rupees a month, how money can earn money without working as hard as you do, if you understand the market mechanisms, etc. And that 3-4 years later, Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh turned into a great experiment called Grameen Bank. And I got pulled into media, and I ran a part of Financial Express and founded Jansatta in Hindi, which somehow
and that was just an amazing turning point, I believe, even in the media, because Jansatta and Financial Times both are one of the most prominent newspapers of India.
Yeah, I mean, they remain in the top 5, 6, 7, at the most 10 newspapers at any point in time. But Jansatta became the leader in Hindi. You can say the way Hindi will evolve, because it changed the language of Hindi. And and
it goes to show, because you are such an amazing, Hindi eloquent. You're like so eloquent in it, and you talk so good. So I guess that kind of helped out.
I don't know what happened, because when Ramnath Goenka asked me, do you know Hindi? I said, I do. He said, do you write Hindi? I said, I can. He said, have you written Hindi? No, then what will you do? I said, I'll write the spoken Hindi. And that's what excited him. That's what led to the birth of Jansatta. But Jansatta, which was said, until Jansatta was born, government secretaries will not give time to Hindi journalists easily. After Jansatta was born, Jansatta journalists were received by secretaries to the government and ministers before the English journalists. So that's the kind of change it brought about in the 80s. So people noticed that. It became, even today when I go to people and they hear about my Jansatta background, I think they immediately give me extra inch of space, and which is very interesting to watch. That said, and then I became editor of the Raman. Dinman was by far one of the finest magazines at that time in the country in any language. And people used to say, why can't we have something like Dinman in English as well? And then India Today came along, and quite a few Sunday, etc. They came along. But Dinman had its a positioning where it was read by the Prime Minister hot off the press. So it was one of those things. When I look at the American and British systems, I think in the US, New Republic would have been close to that.
Dinman was from Times of India Group, so
exactly,
obviously again another big name which you were associated with, and you were the editor. But no, thank you, Satish, for giving us all that information. Now let's go into your journey here in the US. How did you come here? What led to it? Because then all I know about you after that side in India was that you've been into the technology world. You're one of the Thai charter members. You've been with the technology gurus here in US. So let's hear about that a little bit.
Well, it's just so happened that at some point in time, my wife decided to join World Health Organization Geneva, and Dr. Manmohan Singh was in Geneva those days. When I came there, I became one of his direct deputies on technology policy for a brief while. But then I was getting bored and I had to do something. I did an executive MBA, became worldwide head of technology for Roche.
Boredom leads to MBA?
Boredom led to MBA, exactly. Executive MBA. So what happened is when I became CIO for a division worldwide of Roche, which is a pharmaceutical company, I learned most of my management there. And the way I got picked up was, I said, this is information technology. I knew nothing about it. I said, but I am from the world of information, right? So information about how to use information or how to create this infrastructure for information. Anyway, they put me on top of the heap, and that taught me a few things. Then I became chairman of James Partner Company, who came to the US, then US India. That's where we first met. And as the company got acquired, I had to find more investing opportunities. I became early stage investor, small things in education, health, and some technology, which was good for the bottom of the pyramid. So that's the kind of space I worked in. I kind of supported more than 40 startups in various capacities, sometimes chairman of the board, sometimes CEO, sometimes mentor, sometimes just a board member, sometimes just investor, being an outside and occasionally available for conversations. So that's been quite a bit of it, except education was something which always kept kind of intriguing me and nudging me to go in that direction. So I think the 4-5 years I spent running one laptop per child, which was with Nicholas Negroponte of MIT, they were very interesting from the learning point of view and the challenges of education in developing countries. And now what I'm doing is both in Ashraya and Riverfront. Actually, lately I've adopted some 9,000 students across 19 schools. Wow, but my goal is my goal is not to just give them lollipop, but whatever we do should actually transform the lives of these children. So if you invest about $1,000 per child over a 5-year period, and we learned over a period of time since 2008 that I've been working in education, you need that much to be able to actually make a difference in a child's life, in the learning and the curiosity, and making them compete in the world that they will be competing in 10 years later when they leave the college or education, etc. And no matter where they come from, even if they come from villages, with that level of investment, we can make them someone very different. We can change their income level from anything by 10 times plus to whatever time they want to take it to. But we can make them as capable as anybody else on the planet. And then it's a question of their aspirations, what they want to do with it. So that's what I'm trying to do. And luckily, I'm also on the advisory board of Vidya Bharati, which has 4 million students and some 14,000 schools and 150,000 teachers. And now they're also beginning to see what the point I'm making. Because everyone is trying to make a difference in India with 50 rupees a month and 100 rupees a month. And that's almost like saying, in $1 a month, I will change life from a village of India to compete with Manhattan. That's the kind of gap there is. All I'm trying to do is, if you bring it to, instead of $1, you bring it to about $20, now you can actually begin to make a difference, because there is a gap between India and the US of cost levels or income levels of order of 20. So $20 a month is almost like $400 a month in the US. At that level, on technology alone, US expenditure in school education is almost $20,000 per child per year. Indian education currently is not even $150 per child per year. And that gap is huge. But if we actually do $1,000 in 5 years per child, that can bridge the gap considerably. I mean, it will never bridge the gap the way it should be. But children, if they get excited about it, they can overcome their challenges. So that's the work currently I'm trying to do. And that's been very interesting. I have been supporting Shabana Azmi's school in Azamgarh, Sadhguru Tamra's school in Vrindavan. So, some Rotary schools,
beautiful.
Some government schools.
No, I think you've always been interested in helping out with, these children in the villages through technology. And I think you've just come a long way, Satish, from one laptop per child. So thank you for that information. Going back to now a new venture, which I know you've been pretty popular about. I mean, it's kind of taken with a pinch of salt. And it has, and I've been reading the reviews and I've been reading the comments, so I definitely want to talk to you about that. Tell us about Desh par Desh with Satish Jha. What made you start that, or what made you conceptualize this whole project, which is a YouTube channel called Desh par Desh with Satish Jha?
What happened is, one of my old-time friends, he just called me because he wrote a book, which was from Hey Ram to Sri Ram. An intriguing title, and then it had 20 episodes in the 75-year journey of India. And he said we should do something. And then Desh par Desh began because I was overseas and talking about India, looking at the experiences of democracy in the oldest democracy as we know it, to the largest democracy as we are trying to understand how it's evolving. And the questions began from there. But the challenge was that in the past 8 years, media in India has evolved into something which is like basically being a spokesperson of the government or a megaphone of the government, rather than being the questioning, holding a mirror to the government. They have become part of the government. That's the kind of major mainstream media. Very few people are there. I can count some. Siddharth Varadarajan will be an exception. People like me, HW, Sujit Roy. There are hardly about half a dozen, maybe Varkadat in some ways, half a dozen, maybe not even a dozen, when there are about 10,000 such channels around the country, who are willing to stand up to the government and ask a question and basically try to see things differently from the way the government wants them to see. So people keep telling me, Vinod Dua tried doing something, because I also do the column that Vinod Dua was doing. It was called Vinod Dua Show. It became my show, which is from Bombay. So I do these two as well. And the challenge is that everybody said you cannot deal with this government because this government will throw ED at you. All kinds of challenges can come your way. But I think in the end, India still remains democratic. There will be a lot of pressures on the government to make sure that some voices are allowed to speak differently from the way the government wants. Otherwise, there will be no credibility if there's only one voice, and that's been the more recent kind of imagery being created, that from one nation, one language, one religion, now is going into just one media and just one party, and so on and so forth. Began with a Congress-free government, and now it's becoming just one-party government. So that's the kind of conversation going on. But as you saw just today, what happened in Bihar, one state, which is the second largest populated state with 200 million people in that state, the chief minister, he abandoned BJP and he allied with all the other opposition parties to form the government. Man remains there. We just changed the alliances. So that is supposed to be a huge game changer, at least potentially. So that gives us space to talk about things. But otherwise, talking right now in the country, compared to what was 30 years back when I was editor, I can tell you when I was editor, I could talk to Prime Minister whenever I chose to, within a few hours or a day. But today, it's just not possible Unless Prime Minister wants to talk to you, there's no conversation happening. There was no press conference in 8 years. So all this created a possibility. Can I bring in the overseas or global experience and in front of an audience? And there have been some very positive responses. Obviously, these days, the numbers that we had in the Jansapta times, they haven't been coming our way as yet. We are told that the YouTube has been kind of managed by the state in such a way that if there is a dissenting voice, probably something is being done we don't even know about, but that doesn't reach. So everybody says that, we have no proof, but we notice that the way sometimes our message spreads across when we don't oppose something. When we oppose something, the message somehow gets curtailed and driven to a kind of crowd. So that's what led to it, a need for a conversation where we can have another viewpoint. We can bring in a global perspective. We can see things in reference to something external rather than just, there is a challenge in countries which are developing countries. The challenge is they want to be the student and the teacher and want to go for the examination and grade themselves. And that's a very dangerous situation to be in. So we got to be someone who looks at external referencing. Our references cannot be just us. It has to be the human evolution. And it can't be just one country. It got to be the way human beings are evolving. So that's where the conversation about, home and abroad or Desh Pardesh, that's how it began. I don't know if it says much to you, but that's how the journey started.
Thank you, Satish. I mean, I was very patient in listening to it. I think it's just incredible that you're even doing it and you're trying to be that voice and trying to bring these other voices, whether it's from Desh or Pradesh, whether it's from India or international or in US. But what are your thoughts? You want to kind of make this into a global forum, or do you just want to continue to do it from US and just talk with Indians here in India, or do you want to kind of maybe have the movement spread or your YouTube channel spread?
You see, the
because
two things.
We have Indians all over, right, who want
True.
to voice their opinions.
I mean, I would like, if I could spend some time on it, I would like it to be a global voice. Clearly, that should be the aspiration to go. But the way I look at myself, my interest is in positively transforming through education the lives of people, and therefore, whatever part you can impact in a small way as an individual can, to the extent I can. Today, I have 9,000 children adopted. And my point was, I would adopt one if you adopt 100. That's what I told the governments of state governments, and that was idea. So if I take 9,000, becomes almost 1 billion, and then the momentum starts. So that was my first focus or passion. But the second is because I grew up in media. I think if I don't talk, I feel inadequate. So I have to go on talking that way as well. And therefore, ideally, if I can spend time on this, once my team is stabilized in education, I think I like to have this message of India looking at itself in the global context. Because India has got so used to in the past 8 years of looking at itself only in the context of 5,000 years back, that there has to be some way of getting it out of that ditch. That's the kind of ditch which one didn't expect our great nation to fall into. But it has been pushed into that, and we have to get it out of that. So from that point of view, creating a global perspective where every culture, every country, everyone who can be portrayed as a reference point should be portrayed, and I would like to be part of that journey. So let's see how it evolves. But it's not often that we do what we want to do. It's often what becomes possible. Yes.
And then also at the same time, the time factor also is a big deal, right? Because you need to have that time. That's true. I mean, you've been traveling a lot. You're doing such amazing philanthropic things. So now going back into the work that you're doing with these amazing nonprofits, what kind of message would you like to tell our listeners or reach out to them? How can they be supportive? What can be done for these children, and what are your thoughts on it? What would you like to convey?
The members of our diaspora, I mean, we all have India in our heart somewhere. If we just think of adopting our own village, the village we left behind, or just take even one child for that matter, right? And we help them to change their lives and the potential trajectory. Just think of it this way. I always talk about one thing, that from grade 6 to grade 16, which is 11 years of education, Government of India at that time gave me money in rupees as a scholarship from grade 6 to 16, which came to 5,640 rupees, which was in those times like $564. If you look at the later number, or if you look at the previous 60s dollars, it was about $1,100. In $1,100, my earning capacity went way beyond. I probably paid more than tens of thousands times more than the amount of money government gave me towards the taxes. My point is, if $1,100 of investment in a child could make the earning potential of that child, and therefore the developmental potential of the nation as such a society, thousands of times greater. And if you made that as our benchmark for every child, of course, numbers will not be the same. Maybe it's 100 times here, 1,000 times there, but it won't be less than anything that any investment that we make in any company gives us. So if we begin to see nation building from this point of view, we can probably create a much better humanity, much better possibility of development, a much better nation, and we can then begin to talk about the great ideas. Because if you talk about great ideas being poor, nobody is listening. If you talk about the same ideas when people see you successful, immediately something changes in them. They start paying attention to you. So I think somehow or the other, we have to put a little more effort, be it US, be it India, be it Africa, on developing people. And how you develop them, make them curious, let them discover themselves. Because a child, the way the child sees and connects the dots today into the future is decidedly different from the way you and I do. And the way they would connect the dots tomorrow will shape the journey day after tomorrow. So we need to keep on helping them see the dots, the way they connect, in a different way. But Indian system has been a rote learning system, where, and by the way, not just Indian, entire British system, British colonial system has been a rote learning system, because that's what they seeded there everywhere. Be it Africa, every single colony of the British Empire was like that, rote learning, which means 2 and 2 is 4, and 2 and 3 is 3 of 5 or 6. It doesn't become 2 cube, 3 square, and so on and so forth. They don't let you imagine beyond that. So that is the biggest challenge we have. If we let people imagine the possibilities of doing good or doing something new, something engaging, that should be the direction that India should take, Africa should take, and even the US has to take. If you see the amount of work and questions that are being generated in the US education system from the context of where they are, and primarily into the inner cities and the poorer communities and so on and so forth. Very interesting one. But the context is different. Indian context is very, very different, because we come from a under $1,000 per capita income, about $1,500 today. But Bihar, where I come from, the per capita income today is about $800 per annual. So when you see the world from that side, the potential is the same 50,000. And we shouldn't forget, Sheetal, that Indians who are overseas, there are about 5 million of them, or no, 50 million. And their per capita income is about $50,000 each. Can you imagine that? It's the same people, same stock.
I can, million. And Satish, it's very unfortunate that out of those 50 million, you probably would just say 1 million out of those 50 million are interested in doing these philanthropic work, and they feel what you feel. Unfortunately, from where we are, where we see, it's tough to kind of get into them to spend money and do something worthwhile. And I guess since pandemic hit and after pandemic times, post-pandemic, it's a need today to basically make a difference in some form or some way, whether here, whether in India, but do something which kind of, leaves a legacy or a mark. And I think that's where we are, and what you're trying to do and I'm trying to do through my show. So, I really appreciate all the good work you're doing, all the philanthropic work you're doing. Now, before we go, what websites would you recommend to our listeners to go and get in touch with you if they have to, or if they have to, donate or do any of the adoptions of these villages?
Okay, so they can go to Ashraya, rya.co.in, or edufront, edufront.co.in, or I keep my email very simple, my first name dot last name @gmail.com. They can write to me and I'll find a way. And point is, everyone is important. Every human being is important. We don't know when we can contribute to something. So even if there's one person willing to support, hats off to that person, and we should salute them and bring them on board. Manoj Bhargav in Detroit, something he told me is he thinks of how much he would contribute to philanthropy. He became already billionaire.
Right. He does more than he's a philanthropic guy. So for sure.
That's right. So he does more than $100 million, but he says, I plan to have revenues and profits based on how much I want to give away. Now, this is totally different way to look at it. So his Hansa Foundation or RIST, they do $100 to $150 million every year only for India, and some now for Africa as well. So people like him, if there are, say, 15, 20 people, they can actually begin to make a huge difference. So I hope something of the kind happens in terms of education, because I think education is, from my point of view, priority one. Alongside, of course, healthcare.
It's the key to the growth, Satish. That's where we are. Education is the key to the growth. So, for sure. Yeah. But no, thank you, Satish. I appreciate your time. And I look forward to having you soon on the show again, and not after a decade. I promise you that. Keep up doing the good work you're doing, and have a great day.
Very thoughtful of you to think of me. Thanks so much, and I appreciate it anytime and every time. Thank you.
Thank you.